Hi folks, you're with us today, Taskless Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. This essay, I'd like to talk about a number of editorials I've seen where it's argued, typically in business or business sections of newspapers, both online and in print, where the business lobbies are arguing that in Australia the mass migration rate needs to be approximately doubled, because they're saying that in their prognostications, they're looking into the future, there's going to be massive shortages of labour in the years to come. And this is over the next 5 years, they're asserting. So in order to avoid these labour shortages, they claim, business lobbies claim that mass migration has to increase from 400. Bear in mind, Australia's population is 26 million. Has to be increased from 400,000 a year to around 750 to 800,000 a year in order to solve these alleged labour shortages. Now, I'm not sure on what basis they claim there's a labour shortage, because underemployment is chronic in Australia. So they claim you're employed if you work as little as 1 hour a week. That is employed. So there is hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people who are at the lower end of the pay scale, who are working very uncertain random hours. It could be 10 hours this week, 15 hours the next week, 31 hours a week after that, 5 hours the week after that, and so on. They're living these very uncertain existences. But so the more uncertain the existence, the more uncertain the work, and the lower the pay, and the more piss poor the conditions, the harder it is for any business to attract to work. Now, this is easily fixable, but rather than fix it, the business lobby pretends none of that is happening, and they demand more workers. So effectively, they're demanding slave labor workers, or people that are prepared to live 20, 30 to a 2-bedroom apartment and just get whatever work they can on any casual ad hoc basis. That's what they want. That's their dream scenario. Now, this is supposed to be something that the West left behind, in the earlier days of the Industrial Revolution and those times when workers weren't being treated very. Only the most highly skilled workers were getting a good shake there. The lower skilled workers that were needed on an ad hoc basis were treated like shit. And we're seeing a return to those days. The pre-trade union days and the pre-organized sort of workforce days. I've mentioned this many times before, I hear constantly the people that own, the Pizza Hut or the pizza, or take out food chains, especially where they do things like home delivery, which pizza places do. And the pizza places are complaining they can't get people to do the work. Now, that's actually not true. They won't give rosters and guaranteed hours and so on to the workers. So they only want to mobilise workers when there is a demand, and they want to mobilise them quickly. Now, the business owners or the franchise owners or the people who run those chains, they say, well, we don't know how big demand is going to be in any given day. We could get an order for 1 million pizzas, or we get no pizzas being ordered, or just a few. So why should we employ X amount of workers, which you have to pay, if we don't need some of them? They're just going to sit around and get paid for nothing. Now, on the reverse side, though, if the orders do come in and we do need drivers, we want to be able to call up somebody, in the local area, and we want them to be here in 15 minutes or 10 minutes. So they have to be like close by and everything. And that's really how they want it. So they want sort of zero risk to themselves, and they want to be able to pass that risk, if you like, or that inconvenience onto the worker. And that's really where the problem lies here. And the same goes for people that do. There's a building company, not far. I know some of the guys there, and they have that same attitude, that they want to be able to mobilise labourers. This is guys to dig holes in the road, sort of entry-level labourers. They want to be able to mobilise them on demand. And so these guys don't know day to day how many hours they're going to have or what. So they may they may make other arrangements, or they go and want to visit their sick mum in hospital or something like that. They're not available to do the thing. So that the businesses want mass availability of people that can be mobilised with a phone call, and who are prepared to accept absolute uncertainty of the amount of hours they get each week. And they can have wide variance. They can get everything from 0 1 week, 4 hours the next week, 30 hours the week after, 10 hours the week after. Now, that sort of uncertainty, you can't live that way under a normal Western lifestyle, paying rent, paying mortgage. You just can't live that way. So it's only available to kids. And even kids might, the younger, like college kids, high school kids, that sort of thing, even they won't do it. This is bullshit to be living under such uncertainty. But the people who will do it is where, if you get the people from the Indian subcontinent or somewhere like that do live 20 or 30 to a 2-bedroom apartment, or the Chinese people come from rural China and they live that way, they will do that, because between the 20 or 30 of them, they're going to have enough people that are working at any one time that when they pool all their money at the end of the week, they've got enough to pay the rent and put food on the table. But only that communal living allows it. Outside of that communal living, it's impossible to work that way or to live that way. So this is something that the business sector refuses to address. And I understand their argument, but we don't know when we're going to get work, so why should we pay people on staff? I get all that. But the ability to, for the entire business sector, is to just pass that risk and pass that cost and pass that planning problem and that organisational problem. Say, well, it's not our problem anymore. We're just passing it on to these low-paid casual workers, and they can take all the risk and all the uncertainty. That's the failing of this system, or this way of doing things. So now there's plenty of people out there who would happily do the work, but not under those conditions. Now, the other thing is the galloping cost of living in rent and cost of electricity, food, and everything like that. A lot of these people, the cost of living has gone up to a point where a labourer's wage is barely worth a pinch of shit. By the time you add travel costs and costs of running a motor vehicle, or anything like that, then you're getting paid less in effect than you would if you were on unemployment benefit. So people at the very bottom end of the food chain are saying, well, why the fuck should I go through that uncertainty, that stress, getting treated like shit, and still not being able to make ends meet overnight, working a whole week or something? I might as well just stay on unemployment benefits, which they do. And then there's a one that I've spoken about before, a problem that the government's own making is, once someone gets a job, even if they have the job only for a week or a few days or something like that, they lose their unemployment benefits. Now, the unemployment benefits are reliable, they're regular, so if they get a job and it's only for a week, or the employer says, yeah, I'll give you 40 hours, but it only turns out they get 25 hours and then no work the following week, they've lost those unemployment benefits, and they can't reapply for something like, I think it's 6 weeks, could be 4, but I think it's 6 weeks before they can reapply. So they've got to survive for 6 weeks without any income at all. So they're looking at the risk involved in that and saying, hey, why should I go through that level of risk and that uncertainty when I get one of these low, casual, low level shit money labouring jobs, and I lose the certainty of my unemployment benefit, and then I'm having to scratch and roll around in the dust just to get by until I can get those unemployment benefits again. So coming back to this idea of already the mass migration is just way out of control, and the annoying thing is, and proving again the propaganda, is that no matter how many people they bring in, no matter how many in mass migration, they always claim that the worker shortage keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's the same as no matter how many measures they bring in to stop violence against women, the violence gets worse and worse and worse. No matter how many measures they bring in to mitigate climate change, the problem gets worse and worse and worse. No matter how many how much effort and money they spend on protecting transgender, homophobia, it's still, the problem gets worse and worse and worse, and just on it goes. So we know it's all a load of nonsense. We know we're being fed lies upon lies upon lies, and more lies on top of that. We already know that. But these are the claims that the allegation is even under the current level, this is Australian business lobbies, even under the current level of mass migration, which is huge, by the way, 1.7% of the population came in last year in mass migration. So even though we've already got huge levels, they're suggesting that it has to be 3% plus per annum. The population has to increase by just through migration, 3% plus per annum. Now, of course, it's all nonsense. When you get hold of the data they purport to be using, which is all bullshit and made up and full of crap and silly headlines. I mean, it's even worse than a bunch of radical lesbian feminists, the lies they come out with. But if you actually do the hard crunching on the numbers, which doesn't take that long. Once you do the hard crunching numbers, you realise that all of the problems they claim exist in terms of worker shortage or worker reliability that are all easily fixable by better administration, better management, better organisation, and the businesses that are surviving in the construction sector or elsewhere, the businesses that are surviving purely based on the ability to pass the risk of employment onto the worker. I don't think should be allowed, but that passing that risk onto them, they aren't businesses that could survive anyway. They're not commercially viable businesses in the first place. The same as the takeout food shops to have to bring peasants from the third world and put them in, whether it be flipping burgers or I don't know, frying chicken or something. Those people, those businesses. When they package up salaries with accommodation and food and pay people absolute shit money, and then they don't pay any tax because they come under the tax threshold. All those sinister, in my view, machinations that go on, there's a lot of it. The businesses aren't viable if they had to pay a legal proper wage and have proper legal employment conditions. None of those businesses would exist. And the size of the sector of the economy that exists in Australia, purely on the basis of mass peasant labour coming in and being employed under either A, illegal conditions, or B, where that risk is pushed onto the worker of hours per week and all that sort of thing. That means that the sector of it's a growing sector of employment and a growing sector of business when none of these businesses could survive if they existed under proper management, proper conditions and under lawful conditions. And this is a terrifying thing that the Western governments everywhere are looking the other way and pretending isn't happening. But for every extra 1,000 of peasant workers come in, that sector, that non-viable sector of the economy grows, which creates a bigger and bigger problem that one day is going to explode in all our faces. You've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.